the Revisionary Podcast with your host, Juan Carlos. The Revisionary Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Revisionary Podcast. And as always, I'm your host, Juan Carlos. So first and foremost, I want to make it more of a point because I don't do this enough. It's been pointed out to me or brought to my attention that I constantly call you, the listeners, revisionaries at the end of an episode, but I never do it at any other point throughout the entire podcast. So here it is. I want to say thank you to all the revisionaries, to all of you for listening. If this is your first time listening and you are about to become a revisionary, first and foremost, welcome. But the way this podcast works is I bring on guests, usually comedians, who tell a nonfiction story about their lives in which they wish things had gone a little bit differently. Afterwards, I give them an opportunity to tell the same exact story, except this time they can change any facts or details that they'd like about the story. So, pretty simple enough. It's been pretty great. Just a few announcements. For those of you guys who don't know or who don't follow us on social media or don't follow me specifically on social media, I had an opportunity to be part of a really cool project called PN and Friends. I actually acted, so I did a little acting. Why don't you guys watch it and tell me how you think I did? I was going to tell you how I did, but you tell me how I did. I got to play the part of a guy named Juan Carlos. It's episode 21 called Phase 3, PN and Friends. I think you can find it on YouTube, but it's all over the place. Check it out and let me know what you guys think. So it was pretty cool to be part of a project like that. And the guy who puts it together is Todd Montesi, who, as you guys know, was a guest on, I believe, episode 5 of this podcast. So it was pretty amazing having an opportunity to work with him. So that was really cool. And this week, we actually have the one and only Ashley Gutermuth joining us on the Revisionary Podcast. I actually met Ashley because of a few recommendations from people out on the West Coast, out in the Pacific Northwest. They're like, yeah, you got to talk to her. You got to see her perform. And like, you know, I'm really excited for this call because everyone seems to speak very highly about her. Apparently she's like this wonderful human, and I'm excited to see it firsthand because, you know, no one I've spoken to has had a bad word to say about it. Everyone just harps on how amazing of a human being she is. So without further ado, let's go ahead and see if we can get Ashley on the line.
Hi, Ashley. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. This is wonderful.
No, it's my pleasure. My pleasure. So what have you been up to?
Well, what have I been up to? Every day I run and I pick up other people's garbage. That's been something that I've been up to for the past 200 plus days. That's exciting.
How did that get started?
That got started. It started almost 6 years ago when I started running every day. There's a group called the Run Streakers International. And it's a group of people that said, we want to obsess about running. And you have to run at least a mile every day for a whole year without missing a year. And then at the end of the year, you can be in the club. So I started doing that 5.5 years ago. And then this year, I got into a nasty car accident, which, it was bad. My car spun around on the highway and got totaled. But the doctors told me to stay active, and I didn't want to give up my running streak if they weren't telling me I had to. So I had to run more slowly. I was averaging about like an 8-minute pace or so per mile at the time, and I was running 3 miles a day.
Wow.
And that significantly slowed me down. So I thought, what else can I do? And I had been kicking around the idea of running around and picking up trash or just for like about a year or so, I'd been thinking about it. And I thought, this seems like the perfect time to do it. So why not make use of my hands while I'm running? You know, they're not doing anything. So I started that, and it's been cool. I post about it on Instagram every day, and you get to see all the weird bits of trash that I find. And it's neat for me because I can talk about my upcoming comedy shows, and I can say, if I'm coming to your town, I'm also going to help clean it up, whether you like it or not.
Where's the weirdest place that you've had a chance to run and like do this?
Weirdest place. I was running in the woods, and I would still find trash, especially when everything was sort of locked down. I stopped picking up trash that was like new trash that people had just thrown. So I wanted to go find stuff that was old in the woods, and that was nice until I saw a bear. And here's what my dumb face did. It went, "Oh, a bear. I'm going to take a picture."
No.
I know. You don't know what you're going to do. You don't know how dumb you are until you're in that moment. So, fortunately, the bear ran away, which, like, much more quickly. They're very nimble. It took off, but I got a cute picture of it. And once I'd gotten the picture, I thought, that was dumb. But apparently you're supposed to run with bells. In bear country, you run with bells, I guess, so the bears can know you're coming. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, it's so they can know you're coming and they'll leave. But surely, eventually, they'll know you're coming and think, "Oh, there's dinner."
Right. That was my thought too.
So, I don't know. I just stopped running in the woods. Maybe in the wintertime, they'll be too sleepy to chase me.
So, wow. Okay. I'm impressed. First off, I am not a runner. I wish I was a runner. People say, being a runner is easy. You just start running. And I'm like, how?
Well, it's not easy. It's not easy at all. When I started, I could barely breathe. I could barely make it a mile. I run 4 miles every day now. And that's basically my minimum. But when I started, there was no way. And another layer to my running is that I run in sandals.
Okay. Why?
Yeah, it's just a way to make things seem a little bit more bananas than they have to be. I have to make it harder. There are these things called running sandals, and mine are called Luna. They're made in Seattle.
Right.
So when I moved to Seattle, I thought, oh, that'd be cool. Let me try those out. And they just look like regular sandals. But I can run anywhere with them. Like I can run through puddles. I don't have to. They lasted me. To give you some perspective, an average running shoe should last you around 300 to 500 miles. Mm-hmm. And I've put over 1,300 to 1,400 on one pair of these sandals.
Wow.
So that's pretty great. They've really lasted. They fit to your feet, but they're not for everybody. Definitely.
Okay. See, I want to tell you my sad running story.
Go for it.
About, I want to say, a year and a half ago. So, in 2019, I woke up and I was like, you know what? I should be able to run 5 miles. Like that is something that I should be able to do. Right. So I got roped into by my fiance. She goes, all right, you want to run 5 miles? Well, I'm going to sign us up for a 10K.
Oh,
which
no.
Mathematically, I did not know was more at the time. That's way more than 5 miles. So, no, but here's the thing. I trained, and I ran the 10K. I did not walk the entire time.
That's awesome.
Finished third to last, but I can honestly say I ran the entire thing at a molasses pace. Here's the kicker, and this is the part that gets sad. So I did that, went from couch to 10K, and awesome. Now I can't even run half a mile anymore.
Oh, no.
So this was less than a year ago.
It'll come back. The muscles are there. A 10K, that is jumping right into the deep end because that's far.
Yeah.
Try to drive 6 miles, which is about what a 10K is. That's a decent distance. For my 2000th day of running in a row, I ran a marathon.
Woo.
And the farthest I'd ever ran before that was a half marathon. So I'd never ran that far before, and right. I picked up garbage the entire time. So my finished picture that day of that marathon is just me surrounded by trash because I ran so far. I was able to amass so much. But I think that the fact that I run, a certain amount every day, that really built it up. If you just did a mile every day first of all, your time would go down significantly within a month. you would see such tremendous gains. It's unbelievable. Just the consistency. Unless you hate it, and then don't do it.
So that is my problem. I hate running, but when I was running, miles training for the race, I hated running 4 miles, 5 miles. But when it was a 2 mile run, 3 mile, I'm like, this is quick. This is easy. But the problem is getting to that point where I don't, and I like being in shape to run. Like, that's nice when all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, I just walked up a flight of stairs and I'm not dying. There's no phlegm coming out of my nostrils. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. The more that you train, definitely the easier, the shorter distances are easier. But a lot of people, they'll ask me for running tips and I'll say, just do a mile. And they'll say, oh, that's not far enough. It is. That's how I got to the point where I can run as far as I can without I can talk on the phone now and run.
Really?
Yeah. And I really cannot stress how bad I was. I was running on pure, did not want to be beaten down by my own body 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Wheezing, would collapse at the end, just sick to my stomach. But now it's fine.
Well, why don't we jump into this before we get too far down the rabbit hole? We can talk about running all day. Ashley, the stage is yours. Why don't you go ahead and tell us your story? Okay.
Let me paint you a picture. I am a 15 to 16-year-old teenage woman. I'm in high school. And I've been dating this young man, my boyfriend, for probably 2 years. Now, I go to a small religious high school in Pennsylvania. And by small, there was about 40 to 50 kids in our graduating class. So tiny. Not that many people to date,
Right.
So I date him, and everything's great. I think, all right, I'm done. This is the guy I'm going to marry. We're good. I've really
after 2 years of high school relationship.
I'm sure I thought that like after 2 months. Like I was just like, yeah, of course. You like me, I like you. We're done. We can move on to the next thing. We've ticked this life box.
That's so wild to me because in high school, I couldn't even imagine being in a regular relationship for a month. I was like, "Ooh, a month? That's so long to be committed to someone."
It's true. It's true. I would never do it now. So we date, and it goes pretty well. His family likes me. He's a nice guy. And I got a job at a local movie theater, which enabled me to have some spare cash. And something that I've always done is try to have I like to give good gifts. Like I always like to take any extra money I have and try to spread it around to make people happy. And so my boyfriend's family, they weren't particularly like, they weren't super rich or anything like that. So I would, try to help out here and there. And so for Christmas one year, I took all my movie theater money and I went to GameStop and bought him a used PlayStation and a ton of games. It must have been 15 used games that like he probably had no interest in, but I was like, it's $3,
Are you a gamer?
I did play back then. Okay. I played more then. I haven't played in a while, but
I was just wondering if like you went in there with like intended purpose, like these are the types of games I'm getting for him. I'm trying to convert him kind of deal.
I probably did think we would play together. Yeah. So maybe, but so I buy him all these things. I even got him an extra controller. I remember, I got him all of those things and I got him a little TV to keep in his room. So imagine being a 16-year-old guy, having your girlfriend who you say you like, show up on Christmas and be like, here are all the things that will make you happy. Like it seems like a really good gift to me. Even looking back now, I'm like, that was nice.
That's an awesome gift.
So I buy him all these things, and it is absolutely over the top. It's overkill. And I realize that now, that you can be generous to a point where you make people feel uncomfortable. And even though I was happy to try to make him happy, it's also the other person's kind of left in limbo, like, well, I can't afford this kind of a thing back. So I buy him all these things, and he loves it. And he loves it for, I don't know, a few months. And then what seemed like out of the blue to me, he breaks up with me. Mm-hmm. Absolutely shattered me. I completely believed we were well on the track to marriage, whatever that meant.
Is that the norm where you grew up?
No, I don't think so. I think I just always, my whole life, I never really wanted children, but right. I always wanted like a partner. And I liked the idea of having somebody that you could completely trust with everything. And I thought it was great to get that knocked out in high school. Awesome. And I had transferred to this religious high school from a public middle school where some people were bullying me. I had one group of people bullying me because they thought I was gay, and another group that thought that I was trying to steal their boyfriend. So it was a real mix. If only they could talk. So I when I switched to that school, I was pretty happy to finally get a boyfriend. So he breaks up with me, and I did not take the news well.
Did he tell you why?
I don't remember why. I think he just thought that we were growing apart. Now, I had big dreams to travel and to go to other countries and to do things outside of my local like city. And he didn't. And I think all that made him and his family nervous. Like he wanted to stay there, go to school there, and then buy a house there. And I didn't want to live in Pennsylvania anymore. Right.
That makes sense.
So I think that was finally what kind of pushed it over. But what ended up happening was I don't know if he had started a relationship with somebody else that was in our school, and ended up marrying them, which is lovely.
Right. So, it
worked out. I'm very happy for him. There's no way that we would have worked out. I was completely delusional. I am too much. I'm a lot for people over a long period of time. So I think that we would have definitely butted heads, but I wish him all the best. Anyway, so he breaks up with me. I don't take it well. What I initially say is, all right, you aren't allowed to tell anyone. I don't want you to tell anybody. As though I have some control.
Right.
Ridiculous. That should have been
your mind there. Like, was it like, I don't know. Did that make it seem less real to you? What was going through your mind at the time?
I think I was embarrassed.
Right.
I think I was embarrassed because it was such a small school. Everybody sort of knew us as like, oh, okay, they're together. They're going to be together. That's just the way it is. And the idea that he was breaking up with me, and it just seemed so, I think that's what it was. I think I was embarrassed, or I felt like I was failing in some way, and I needed to rein in the control in whatever way I could. So yeah, I think that's what it was. But when he called, I said, okay, well, you can't, I don't want you to tell anybody, and for at least a month. So not only did I say you can't do something, I also gave a timeline.
Right.
I didn't say you couldn't do it forever, but we're at least going to do this. So I say that, and he agrees for whatever reason. He must have been a nice guy. It's like,
Clearly.
fine. You're crazy. Okay. So that I started to stew about it a little bit, and I realized, because I spent a ton of money on this guy not that long ago, and then he's going to break up with me. Like, what? And I think I was just trying to think, how do I'm hurting. How do I make him hurt too? Oh, I know. I'll take back what he loves the most, the PlayStation. So I call him or I text him and I say, hey, you're breaking up with me, and contingent upon our relationship, which you didn't know, was that I need you to give me back the television. I need you to give me back all the games, and I need the PlayStation back. And for whatever reason, I thought that was a reasonable thing to do. Right.
I mean, it's not unreasonable.
I was just hurt, right. And maybe I thought, well, if I tell him he's got to give that back, maybe he'll change his mind. Uh-huh. So he agrees to that as well. But at the point that he broke up with me, he stopped talking to me or even looking at me. Which again, very small school, hard to do. And so he had his mother bring in the PlayStation,
right, and
the game and the television in a shopping bag, like a plastic shopping bag. Uh-huh. And she met me out by the bus at school and was kind of like, here you go. Here you go, you monster.
Well, okay, so walk me through that. So what was the look on her face? Like, was she angry? How did that transpire?
I think she was sad because we had spent a lot of time together too. She would call me her daughter, kind of a thing. And she was very nice. His family was very nice. So I think she was just sad at the whole situation. And that we had broken up, but and it was just so incredibly awkward. And the end of the school day, everybody's leaving out one door. So everybody that I know is watching me talk to this grown woman and being like, yeah, give me back my stuff.
Right.
So yeah, I think she was sad. But it was the only way that I could think of at the time. And from then on, I would occasionally, I would try to say hi or something like that to him, and he just couldn't. And I don't think he was mad at me. I think he was also just shy. He was kind of a shy person to begin with, and I'm not shy at all. So that's very difficult for me to understand. And so I don't think he was mad or anything like that, but it was not the right decision.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. I feel bad about it now. It's been forever.
Right.
Yeah, I feel bad about it now. And I just, it taught me some things. It taught me to really understand that when you give someone a gift, that's theirs.
Right.
That's not, I had no ownership over it now. Over it, once it's been a gift that has been given, it belongs to them. If they choose to burn it or give it away, that's up to them.
So what did you do with it after you received it? Like, did you play with it? Because that's equally as weird.
I sold it. I sold it for, I sold the television to my other friend who gave me some money and a snare drum.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And I remember on the check, either I asked or she insisted to write on the memo portion, that it was for a massage.
Classic high school hijink.
Yeah, just ridiculous. Like the 16-year-old that's buying $20 massages. Yeah. So I don't know. I definitely wouldn't do it now. And I don't have any, I have thought since about contacting him and being like, let me buy you a PlayStation.
Right.
Let me I want to make this right. But a couple of years after I think I graduated high school, I was on AOL Instant Messenger, and the back, yeah. And I remember apologizing to him, and he lit up, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to say I'm sorry right now, and I did. But he still was super awkward about it, like shy, I guess is a better way to say it. And so I just kind of backed off. I was like, maybe he just wants to let it be. And right. I'm trying to make this better for myself. But yeah, I haven't contacted him since. But I just thought, man, I wish I could make it better by just buying him and his family a PlayStation.
Well, maybe he'll listen to this podcast and go, that's me.
That's
and like,
me.
He'll understand, that you really do feel bad about this.
I do. I feel bad about the whole thing because he was right. There's no way that we would have been a good long-term viable option. It's also ridiculous to think you're going to, in most cases, marry somebody that from high school. And I didn't want to stay in Pennsylvania, and he did. So that makes sense.
Well, I think some of that is environmental, right?
Yeah.
In your case, you wanted out, and I think that was really what made it difficult. But for a lot of people, that works out. People who grew up in smaller towns, people who just want to stay in the same town where they grew up. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just a different life choice, a different perspective. Yeah. And for a lot of those people, they have long marriages, and good for them. I'm happy. It wasn't for me,
Yeah.
But I also grew up in a massive city. So there's that.
Yeah, I think whatever you want to do is absolutely fabulous. But I think he made the right call. He threw in the towel. Yeah. He was a big sports fan, and I grew up in Pittsburgh, which is a really big sports town.
Love Pittsburgh.
And Steelers, you have, when you're born in Pittsburgh, you have to like the Steelers, whether you want to or not. And so I wasn't as into sports as he was.
Are you a Ravens fan?
No, yeah, you can't be that. My God, they'd never let me back in Pittsburgh. It's like saying you like Cleveland Browns, right? They would not tolerate that. They'd stop you at the border of Pennsylvania. But he was really into that. And I was really into British comedy, and football and British comedy don't usually mix.
I mean, clearly you haven't seen Crystal Palace play, but
oh well, there you go, different type.
it's a joke. I don't even, look. If you're a Crystal Palace fan out there, I don't even know if they're good or bad. It's just they just not on the same as Man City or Man United. That's all this was.
You picked Crystal City instead of like Arsenal or like.
Well, those are top tier teams. Look, I'm gonna get a lot of hate mail for this. Okay. So what's interesting to me? It seems to me like you were dating the most mature high school student in the country.
It does seem like it, yeah. I mean, there were ups and downs, but I was probably the more troublesome one of the relationship because I don't let things go very easily, and he seemed to be pretty laid back. So, I was the squeaky wheel, I guess.
Hold on one second. Let me ask you this. So if you could change anything about your story, what would you change? Which of the facts? What would you do differently?
Oh, I'd go back to the day that I got that phone call, and I would say, you know what? You're right. I want you to live your best life. If it's not with me, we can still be friends, and we'll move on. I hope you enjoy the PlayStation. You can keep that. That's yours. You won that. You won that fair and square. And just try to be decent about the whole thing and not controlling and hurt, and just move on with my life.
Okay. And so how do you think that would have impacted you today? Like, how would your life be different if you had dealt with it that way?
Well, I obsess about things quite a bit. So I'll roll things around in my brain a lot. And it would be nice to not have that in there as one of those, oh, you're an idiot, Ashley. Why couldn't you just be nice? I try to be nice in general, but when you think about some of like that particular action, I wish that wasn't on my life scorecard.
It's funny because I'm the same way. But have you ever felt so guilty that you started an entire podcast to talk about these things to make yourself feel normal?
I think that's fair. I'm on board.
Well, I get it, and that's like, I'm joking about it, but that's really why I started this podcast, because I feel like we all go through these things. We all have these struggles. We all have these stories, moments where we weren't our best selves. And I wanted to give people a platform to, talk about it, get it off your chest, because you mentioned something which I've never really said on air, but it is a crucial component of this podcast, right? You can't really bring something like this up and expect to apologize, because at that point you're being a little selfish. You're just trying to alleviate your feelings. And you can't really bring someone back, because if it was especially traumatic for that person, you want to give them the space to have moved past it and not bring them back and bring all those feelings flooding back. So I'm giving you a platform to kind of...
I love it. I'm glad I can lay it down now.
Air it out. Yeah, right? He might hear this. You don't know.
I don't know. I hope if he does, I hope he contacts me, and I hope he says, hey, just send me a $20 GameStop coupon. We'll call it even.
So here's the thing. I actually assumed his identity. So if you want to send it to my address.
You got it.
No, I'm just kidding. No, so that's really fun. Before we wrap this up and I let you go, really quickly, you mentioned a few charities that were near and dear to you. You want to discuss those with us real quickly?
Well, some things that I was speaking to you earlier about how I pick up trash and do that every day. I would love it if people would go out when it's safe, pick up a piece of trash near you. I do a thing on my Instagram called 4-Piece Friday. Just pick up 4 pieces of trash, tag me in it, and I'll throw you up in my Instagram story.
Where can people find you?
At Ash Gutermuth. And that's on Instagram and Twitter or Facebook,
That'll be in the title. So if you have any questions as to how to spell her name, it'll be in the title. Before I let you go, we have a tradition on the Revisionary podcast that how we end. We like to end on a high note.
Okay. Please
tell us a quick story from your childhood that like brings a smile to your face, or a very happy moment, or something that just generally makes you feel good inside.
Oh God, my brain, my brain initially went to a horrible story.
Why does, okay, everyone does that to me and I don't understand why. I like to think that I come off as a nice guy.
You do, but I don't know, maybe the nice ones don't seem as interesting as the terrible funny ones. What's a good story?
I mean, I just want positivity. That's why I like to end it on a positive note. Make people feel good. You can tell us a funny one.
This has a little bit of a silly bit in it. I played a lot of sports when I was growing up.
Okay.
And I played baseball and then later softball. But I would practice all the time. I would play catch with my dad constantly, and he would just whip the ball at me just so I could get better.
Right.
And there was this one day when my little brother, who was probably 2, had gotten in the middle of us playing catch, and my dad threw a big pop-up, and it was coming right down, was going to come right down on my baby brother. And I panicked. Now, my dad doesn't panic. You'd think, that's my kid, but doesn't panic. Here's what I do. I ran to my brother and I shielded him like a human shield. So the ball whacked me in the back.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Oh, no. But also, Ashley, you are there with a glove. You were catching a ball. Why is your first instinct to just use your body? I don't know. That's I've never understood why I did that when I could have just been like, oh, catch.
Right. Defend myself. No, oh my God.
That warms my heart.
That's a good story. That's exactly how I like to end this podcast, on a nice positive note. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the revisionaries before you leave?
Thank you so much for listening. Please check me out on Instagram and pay attention there because I'll put up where my next comedy show is. And this has been wonderful. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Bye, Ashley.
Bye.
The Revisionary Podcast.
First and foremost, revisionaries, let's talk about how everyone is right. She is a wonderful human. Like, the simple fact that she just runs and, picks up trash is just phenomenal. And she's, you know what, her story kind of inspired me. I think I'm going to go up and just sign up for a half marathon. You guys think I'm joking, but watch. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to sign up for a half marathon, and I'm going to post for Steve's. And this is going to happen because now I'm inspired by her story. She said I could run, so I'm going to start running. Let's see what happens of it. As always, I want to say thank you to all of you for listening. You guys are always wonderful. You guys are the best. I could not do this podcast without you guys, the revisionaries. So without further ado, I want to say thank you for listening.
This is